Space, the final frontier. I'm just kidding. That's the universe, guys, and we're all a part of it. And it seems like chaos. So a little bit about myself is that I'm very inspired by the music that I listen to. Been like that since I was a little kid. And I look like I'm having a pretty good time, but why? Why the suffer well? Well, I'll tell you. Between this time and this time, my dad was around, and things were great. Unfortunately, when he passed, my mom found another, and she thought he was the right guy, but he turned out to be not so right. And with that being said, I came across about 8 years of my life where I had to endure extreme mental and physical abuse by a man who was misogynistic, tyrannical, and possibly a little bit sociopathic. I'm not sure. That's me afterward. These are the results. Doofy me. Having a good time, actually, after all was said and done. Space Oddity. I'll give you a reason why the whole space theme came into picture here is that when I was a little kid and I was dealing with all this abuse, I became vocal. And I would always stand up to him. I was small. No, you can't be doing that. Once in a while, I would get my own share of abuse from it. When I got older and I learned to walk on the eggshells, it got a little bit better. There was a rule that I had to follow. Once your dad gets home, go to your room. Don't come out. Just leave it alone. And so that's what I did. For 8 years of my life, I'm basically isolated in my room. No phone, no friends, no extracurricular activities whatsoever. Can you imagine how well I did at school? I was actually doing really great at school, believe it or not. Some people suffer. I was thriving. Why? Because I had social contact. It was great. I was in high school, for example, I was in the National Honor Society and the president of the drama club. I was always very emotive, very fun. And, you know, in my social circles, I was pretty popular. One day, I got booted from home. No real reason why. It just happened. My mom did the best that she could. She was like, "Mijita, I got you all your savings. Here's a little bit. Let's buy you a car. Here's a little bit. You're going to live on your own from now on." At 16. I was excited. We lived in Houston at the time. I mean, who could not be excited? I was getting my own car. More exciting. And I went ahead and went with the flow. As long as mom was there, she could advise me, and things would be great. Unfortunately, she was only there for like maybe another 2 months, and then they split to Mexico. Some big old mess my stepdad had gotten into again. So they left. And now I'm advising myself. How many 16-year-olds you know do things responsibly? Never, never, never. So this is the thing. I was a big fan of music. When I was locked in that room, I would listen to David Bowie. I would listen to Guns N' Roses. I would listen to bands that reflected my feelings of isolation, angst, anger, or happiness even, if I was feeling that. So I'm in Houston, guys. I can see these bands live, any of them, and they're coming, and nobody's telling me not to. And I experienced the subculture of Houston in the renaissance of, I guess, the last great renaissance of the music scene for Houston. And it was fantastic. amazing. And I lost my home because I was so distracted with all this stuff around me. And I would couch surf and ask friends, can I stay the night? Can I stay the night? Until finally, everybody was just sick of me, and they're like, look, she's got to go. So I came back to Brownsville, where I was born. I had an uncle here. He thought, I'll take care of you. Cool. 3 months later, I'm on the streets again. Here we go again. Why? I don't know, but it happens. I'm not trying to say I was a difficult kid, but I can tell you that when I was little, and when I stood up to my stepdad, that stayed with me. That defiance is like, kind of like it's instinct at that point. So I'm on the streets, but I'm still going to school. I'm still trying. And I met some friends. These guys, they were los punks, the Southmost. The punks, the Southmost. And we would walk the streets, and we would, be bad. We'd skip school. We'd go to the corner store and buy our chili Cheetos. It was fun. And we listened to music more. It transitioned. That music was starting to, impact me. Bands were the first time I ever heard a punk band, honestly, was not in Houston. It was in Brownsville. I listened to bands like Black Flag and Minor Threat, the Angry Samoans. I know these are probably going over many of y'all's heads, and that's okay. These are fringe groups, just like I'm part of a fringe subculture. Normally, we are kind of castigated as just just a bunch of weird kids. They have colored hair. They have piercings. But what we're listening to is more than just weird kids. What we're listening to are ideologies about do-it-yourself aesthetics. Bad Brains said, positive mental attitude. Keep it in your head. Locally, in Austin at the time, there was another wave called the Young Lions Conspiracy, and they called it ISA, Integrity, Soul, Attitude. When I finally left Brownsville and went back to Austin, I went with my husband. That's us right there. And being scene kid, I thought that was it. This is the level. I'm hitting it, y'all. I'm cool. I'm in Austin. Everybody thinks that when they go there. There's still more growing to do. And what was happening was I was introduced to this idea of do-it-yourself firsthand. You can do it too. There are opportunities here. Let me help you with some. When I was working as a manager at, yes, Hot Topic, I met this lovely go-go dancer named Tiffany. And she was saying, you know what you'd be really good for? Chaos Radio. Chaos Radio was a pirate radio station in Austin, Texas that received many accolades from newspapers and all types of organizations who just thought, hey, Chaos Radio is basically providing a service that still kind of spits water into life. Like, here we are. We're defining democracy on our own terms. This is what we believe. This is the music we want to hear, and that was the motto. We play music we want, not what you want. So my husband and I, right here, that's Chaos, are running our Bubba and Taco Billy show. And our den mother at the time, she instilled into us the love of democracy, the pursuit of equity, and how important it is to put it on yourself to do things. It doesn't matter where you come from. People from all walks of life came through those doors. Some of them smelled. Some of them were rich. We met all kinds of people, and we were all on that same level. And music does that. It puts everybody at that same level. So after we came back to Brownsville, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to school now. Like, after all of this, I kind of feel like there's more for me to learn. Retail sucks. I don't want to do that anymore. So let me go. I explored political science. That was my bag. I loved it. And I ate it up. I was just like, you know what? Maybe I want to be a lawyer, or maybe I want to be, a public servant. I got my bachelor's in public service. Everybody's like, what's that? And I'm like, well, it has to do with knowing how to be a public servant. Like people, people think that it's kind of like a whatever bogus degree, but actually I wish that more people took that kind of at least the exploration of public service. Later on, I got public administration. During this entire time, though, we're running our club, the SRC, stood for Sting Radio Club. I was actually the news director for Sting Radio when it first opened up. Sting Radio later on became the Student Radio Club. Well, actually, Sting Radio turned into UTB Radio. So we had to change to the Student Radio Club. So therein is the SRC. You see Ben, he's got the SRC shirt on, and I'm directing, telling him, look, over here, over there. I've always been the boss. I've always been the boss for these kinds of ventures. It's just like I got all these cats, and I'm trying to wrangle them. And here we are doing it again, and that was one of our first music festivals. It was called Rockin' Beats. We really got into this idea of putting on these big, massive music festivals for our peers, the people who needed to play, the people who needed a forum for them to sell their artwork, or just, a place to go. Because Brownsville didn't really offer the same opportunities that Austin or Houston does. And they made me feel so great. I just wanted to introduce people to the same thing. So that pursuit just continued from there. And that's when we started BAM. After I graduated with my bachelor's, I was like, nobody's letting us put on these shows anymore. We don't have a school. What are we gonna do? And Carlos, my husband, he's like, I know. We've been driving around all over town, and all these places just are too expensive to rent out. We could get a hall. Yeah, that's an idea. Our favorite thrift store just so happened to close, El Cid. Now, a lot of people that like thrift downtown probably remember El Cid. It was the cool place with all the rock and roll stuff. They shut down, and a week later, we called, and we're like, how much? And the price was so right. Man, we snapped it up. We didn't even think about it. There was no business plan. There was nothing like that. We were just like, yes! And that's what we started off with. One speaker. We'd play it real loud. We had one art installation, the legs, they're still there, and, just friends. And it was a group effort, and it was a lot of fun, and we hadn't even officially opened up yet. It took us 6 months, because we did all the repairs on our own, all of it. But when we finally did it, we got notice for it from people like the Brownsville Herald. In this picture, you see the first collective. They're small. That's our first collective, good friends of ours, just people who wanted to put on a show as well. And Night Drive from Houston/Austin, who I actually saw up there when I was interning. I was like, we need Night Drive guys. So they came. So, full circle, my life was complete. I love them. But look at what happened after that. My network of friends grew and grew to the point where even UTRGV came to us and said, hey, we want to put on an event there. Is that cool? And I'm like, yes. So it happened. And this was a really great event. We had kids from Southwest Keys come. The looks on their faces, just by being able to get a shirt printed from this printmaking show, was amazing. You could tell that this was the only article of clothing that they had ever really just had that was identifiably theirs. It wasn't ropa usada. It wasn't just whatever. It was special, and it was made special for them. It felt really good that day, and we kept on striving to do more. So I'm basically at this point in my career with BAM, where we started off as a collective, and Carlos and I and our little group of friends were, trying to do it all on our own. The opportunities kept coming, and they were all fantastic opportunities. And there was absolutely no way that we could do it. I'm running 80-hour weeks already. So we had to get bigger. We had to think bigger. So we started a co-op. A workers' co-op is basically, getting together with other like-minded folks. You work together, you take your turns. Everybody is one person, one vote, and it's fair. It's democratic, and it's the equity that I always insisted everybody should give to one another. And not only that, but it's for the community. Maybe you guys haven't been out there, but maybe your kids have. Because what we offer is something completely different from what Brownsville has given to the community. We don't believe in the idea that there is a higher level of music. We'll come down to your level because that's okay. We want you to get out of your shell. And once you do, if you want to lend a hand, help me sweep, help me clean this toilet. There's a lot to do. And that's my call to action to you guys right now, is that there is a lot to do right now. It's never going to end. It doesn't matter what place you go to. You're going to meet people who are volunteering. They're going to be working really, really hard to make life better here in Brownsville for all of you. And whatever you decide to choose, just think of it this way. I could go about not doing anything at all and just being a passive spectator in life forever. Or I could be an active creator. I can make things happen here, and I can make this enormous difference, but I need to believe in myself. Had I not believed in myself back then when I was little, when I was constantly being diminished, I wouldn't be here today. But I turned it around. I did it because I knew that there was something better out there. That music gave me hope. Music is so important. We have to invest in music and art. So my call to action, again, no matter what it is, just do something, create something, help somebody else. Whatever you can. It doesn't matter how insignificant it is. It's helping. And that's it. Thanks, guys.